All right, we're gonna get started. Can everyone in the back hear me? Do I need to enunciate more? Great. So guys, welcome to MAGFest. Woo! So today we're gonna learn how to do the best craft, cross stitch. And just a show of hands, how many of you have done some form of needlework before? So be it cross stitch, embroidery. Okay, so lots of people to help. And how many have done cross stitch specifically? Okay, great. So today we're gonna go into why cross stitch is amazing, and then we're gonna do a quick kind of tutorial just to get your feet wet, get the technique down, and then we'll finally get to start making our Stitch DS, and then we're gonna show you where you can find additional resources as you continue your stitching journey. And at the end, we have a little surprise for you all. We stitched these MAG logo magnets. So they're at that table over there. So if you leave early for whatever reason, make sure to pick one up on your way out. You have some very seasoned stitchers in the room for you. My name is Anna. I've been stitching for a while. I'm currently working on stitching all of the Pokemon Gen 1 and Gen 2. Obviously for my cosplay, that's not a surprise. And then my co-panelists, Alyssa and Kat, are in the back, and they'll be walking the floor, helping you guys out. So first of all, why cross stitch, right? Why are you guys here? We think it's one of the easiest crafts to learn. If you can thread a needle and you can count, then you can cross stitch, and we'll help you with the first one. We can't really help you with the second one, but you can kind of cover up your mistakes if you can't count. And it turns out amazing no matter what the skill. I found that with embroidery and crochet, you have to kind of get it down to make your stitches even, but for cross stitch, it always turns out great. And given how many cross stitch panels there are at MAGFest this year, you'll be surprised who you already know who cross stitches. It's also super cheap. We've already helped you out. You can take home your needle, but you can usually do most cross stitch for under $20. It's also incredibly versatile. So every craft image in this deck is something we've made, but you can make ornaments on laser cut wood. You can use plastic Ada, which is a little harder than the white Ada you have in your kit, to make charms. We made these Animal Crossing wine charms. You can use waste canvas, which you can put on clothes and other things. So I've used it for cosplay before. And water-soluble Ada is similar, helps you stitch on clothing super easily. It's also great for gifts. Ornaments. Alyssa is wearing a gift I made her. Wall decor, you name it. It's also pretty portable and great for multitasking. You'll see that you can continue your cross stitch at a MAGFest panel while watching TV. I've stitched on an airplane. You can really take it anywhere. And finally, it's pretty lawless. We're going to give you guidelines that we find are helpful, but honestly, as long as you kind of follow 2 basic rules, it'll turn out great. So just have fun with it. If you find something works better for you, go ahead and do that. So you can now open your kits and make sure that you should have 2 pieces of paper, 2 little cards with floss, so one you grabbed on the way in, and then 2 pieces of cloth Ada, one of which should have a needle in it. So if you're missing anything, raise your hand, and we'll come around and fill those out. And then we're going to kick this off using the small Ada that has a needle in it and your custom colors. If you want to set everything else aside for now, instead of diving into the DS, we're just going to get our feet wet first. All right, so with your custom color, the way you can unravel it, if you haven't already, is grabbing the tag and then the loose end, and you should just be able to pull and it'll come apart. And then you're gonna want to completely remove the floss from the tag, so it's kind of a loop. Get in there. It's always seamless when you do it at home. And then you're going to want to find one end that has the strand of 6. And you're going to kind of want to fluff up the end and try to grab one. We're going to just be using one floss today. So once you have your one floss, I just hold the other 5 strands and then pull. So as long as you keep your finger and pull, it should be pretty knot free. Sometimes you have to stretch out the end of it. So you should have one long, thin floss of your custom color. I'm using blue, but whichever color you grabbed. So sometimes you want to like stretch the rest of it out again and then continue pulling. Sometimes that helps. Just do one piece. I'm just trying to demo it again. Anyone else need help with splitting? Also, if it knots, you have more than enough floss, so you could cut it if you have a decent bit that you separated. All right. So now you're going to thread your needle. And we find the best strategy, if you don't know how to thread it already, is to make a little loop, fold it between your fingers, and then put it through the eye of the needle. And then you're going to want to thread it so that it touches the other end and straighten it out. So you should end with a needle that essentially has a floss with two flosses on it. So again, take one of the ends, fold it a little bit. You can like crease it with your fingers and then put it through the eye of the needle. Thread it all the way so that the ends are together. All right. So next we're going to start the thread, and we promise this is the hardest part of cross stitch. So you are going to poke your needle through one of the holes, kind of, you can start in the middle, and then you're going to leave a little bit of your two strands in the back, and then you're going to poke your hole to the top right hole of that hole you just made. So you're essentially making forward slashes in the Ada. And then with that end that's in the back, you're going to then put your needle through the hole that then covers it. And in the front, you'll come back at the bottom right. So this is kind of the pattern of cross stitch, bottom right to top left, or to top, bottom left to top right. And you just need to leave that little tail and bury the thread in the back. Yeah, so you're burying the tail. So if you see in the video, you're pressing it down and then you're making your stitch in the back so that it kind of holds it down. But you're not knotting it or anything. So poke a hole, make your first half slash, leaving a little bit of the tail in the back. And then in the back, you're going to want to come out bottom left in the front, but in the back, you'll be making a vertical stitch and it covers that tail. Yeah. So if anyone didn't hear that, we're using the small bit of Ada. So you have 2 pieces of Ada in the kit. Don't use the big one yet. So if it helps, you can kind of half poke the needle to kind of test where you are. You poke the needle through, leave a little bit, make a forward slash. And then in the back, oh, of course I. And then in the back, you can kind of poke. So it should be a vertical hole. So you can kind of poke your needle through just to make sure you're in that bottom left of the next stitch before you commit and pull it through. And so you're going to want to bury that tail over 3 stitches to really make it secure. So essentially repeat it until you get 3 half stitches. All right, so now you're gonna stitch half stitches, and you can go ahead and do 6, and then you're gonna end in the bottom right corner in the front. So the front image is what you want to end up with. So just keep making half stitches. You don't have to worry about burying that thread in the back anymore. You just keep going bottom left to top right. Who's good with this step? Show of hands. Okay, we'll give it one more minute. All right, so now you started in the front, in the bottom right, and now you're gonna cross your stitches. Big surprise. So now you're going backward slashes. So bottom right to top left hole, and you'll be going through a hole where you already have thread for the most part. So just make sure you're finding the hole. It might have a little bit of give. And yeah, just go to the end of the row. So end this step with your thread in the back. All right, so then you're gonna start the next row. So in the back, you kind of do a longer vertical stitch. So you skip to the bottom left of the next row. If you don't want to look at the back and just find that hole, that also works. And then you're gonna just do the same thing you did in the earlier step where you make forward slashes. So you're making a bigger jump in the back, but in the front, it just looks like you're starting a new row. And you're gonna start in that bottom left hole under the row you just made. Yeah. So the question was, when you're counting, are you counting like the white squares where the cross would be? And yes, that's how you're counting. So instead of counting holes, you're counting the like white boxes in the cloth. Yeah. So we have our first knot of the session. Big sad. But no worries, super easy to fix. So most knots are slip knots. So if you put your needle through the little loop, pull till it's almost gone, and then pull both sides, it'll go away. If it doesn't have a loop, then try pulling both sides from the start. That should get it out. Yeah. All right. And then you're gonna So feel free to cross your crosses on the way back too. So have your font look like 2 rows of 6. And then to end the thread, you're gonna go to your back and you're gonna tuck your needle into 2 or 3 of the back stitches, and then you're just gonna pull through. And this is enough to tuck it in. Sometimes you have to wedge your needle in there. And then feel free to cut off the excess tail. What was the question? Yeah, so on the back side, you should have vertical stitches. So you want to go under 2 or 3 of those. All right. So now time for the main event. We're gonna stitch that DS if you haven't already. So if you pull out the paper, the larger paper from your kit, the smaller paper, by the way, has the QR code with all these slides plus other resources. So keep that on hand. But the pattern in your kit is kind of similar to patterns that you'd find in most kits. It'll tell you the size, the color symbols, the DMC number. That's just a brand of floss. So it means you can rebuy 318 and you'll get that same exact shade of gray we're using today. It'll also have 10 by 10 grids if you wanted to pre-grid your Ada. We have links about that if you're interested. And it'll have center marks that'll mark the middle row and middle column of your pattern. So just so you know how to read these patterns. We're going to start with the custom color, so the squares on the pattern. And we're going to talk a little bit about planning a route. Now, this is completely optional, but we just like to kind of think, okay, how am I going to stitch this when you're starting out? So we're going to give you a suggested stitch route. So we think you should start top left. So if you get your big piece of Ada, estimate the center and then go a little top left. You can start your first stitch. And then we think you should do half stitches across. And then instead of finishing the row, do an S with more half stitches to get that right side of the DS. So it'll look like this for half stitches. And then you turn around at that circle on our diagram, retrace your steps, and then you end back where you start. So this just lets you do that left side of the DS easier on the next step. So we're going to keep this up on the board. and help people out. Does anyone need the gift for starting a thread again? 'Cause I know that step's a little complicated. All right. So at this point, it's free stitching. We're going to be walking around and helping you guys. But go ahead and start your DS and let us know if you need help. Yeah, if you didn't have to cut your strand, you can keep using your already threaded needle. And as I mentioned, you do not have to follow this route. So if you just want to follow the pattern however you want, as long as you're making forward slashes first, it'll look consistent. So this step that's on the screen, starting the thread, you only have to do that once when you're starting with a blank Ada. So then when you're adding, like if you need to rethread your custom color or you're moving on to the white or gray, you can just tuck that thread in the back, similar to how we ended the thread. So you can just tuck it in and then keep stitching. So you don't have to bury the thread constantly. You can just tuck it in the back of whatever color you've already stitched. So as long as you're making forward slashes, you can go top right, bottom left. I was just about to demo that, so read my mind. So when you're doing that S, as long as you make your slashes forward slashes, it doesn't matter if you start in the bottom left or the top right. So if this is the end of your 11, you can then go top right to bottom left. So you don't necessarily have to go to the bottom left one of that S you're making, as long as you're just doing forward slashes. And then when you're crossing them, you'll then be going, since you're already on the left side, you'll then be going top left to bottom right. Yeah, that's perfect. All right. So unfortunately, this panel is only an hour, so we do have to kick you out. So if you can start getting your things together. But thank you guys so much. This is the first time we've done a panel, A, and B, the first time we're running this panel. So you guys were great sports. Woo! So remember to grab your free magnet on the way out. Also, you have the QR code in your kit, but it has a bunch of extra tips, resources, as well as 2 free MAGFest inspired patterns that are also good for beginners if you want something else to stitch without paying money. No. Yeah, and then so leave the shears, please. If you're gonna take them, then at least prop check them, but please don't take the shears. Also, we have so much embroidery floss, so if you want to make another color DS, feel free to grab another custom color on your way out.